Hello and welcome to Geigenomics. I want to discuss today what I want to call the college bubble or the education bubble. And from an economics perspective, bubbles pop. And I guess what the college bubble is a bursting in the amount of students who pay this absurdly high tuition fee to go to college. One, because the education is decreasing in quality, and two, because the price of tuition is becoming astronomically expensive. And it's in order to understand where the increased prices come from, we can just look at a simple understanding of supply and demand. And when you have subsidies, and an artificial inflation in the amount of students who can go to college and then be supported artificially by the government in the form of financial aid and student loans to go to college, then you have an artificially increased demand in students who want to go to college. And what this allows for is the universities and colleges to increase the cost of their tuition, because if the government is partially paying for it with this money that they create, then the universities know that they can increase prices while still having roughly the same amount or an increased amount of students who are willing to pay for this and attend their colleges. Now, what's really interesting is the education itself in the quality. And at liberal arts colleges, a lot of students aren't learning trades that will help them in business in the future when they go into careers, when they have to know skills and how to manage their own lives. But what we're seeing is an increased amount of degrees in fields of studies. And this is great if you're trying to learn this stuff. But as far as job opportunities in the future, these studies don't help with specialization. And it's unfortunate because then this just creates a cycle of students entering these fields of studies, and then the only jobs they can find are if they go into academia and furthering these studies, or getting jobs with the government. And also Michael Malice, who's an influence of this podcast, says that college is absurdly expensive. You send your beautiful daughter to college, and sometimes she comes back as a swamp walrus, where she can't have a conversation with grandma because she thinks grandma's a racist at Thanksgiving. And this is very unfortunate, but I've heard of some professors referring to students as it's just, yeah. Anyways, so what I'm predicting is, now with this COVID crisis and the fear of the Rona, as more students and professors switch to online education, at a lot of big colleges, you have these amenities and services and complexes that are worth millions of dollars. But if you don't have students on campus to utilize these services, then these services go to waste. And I don't think a lot of colleges are under the expectation that students will remain off the campus in this virtual online learning for more than a decade at the latest. But with the assumption that students will return to campus within the next coming years, then these services can be maintained and tuition prices can stay roughly the same as what they are. However, if this isn't the case and you have students who are switching to online learning, and if it remains this way permanently, then a lot of students are going to say that the cost of tuition isn't worth the education that they're receiving. And what they'll do is they'll substitute their online degree from universities for roughly the same quality education, but at a much affordable price. And maybe this comes with independent institutes or colleges at prices that are much lower than in the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s prices of college that are just astronomically thousands of dollars. And I think it was Harvard that said, even though we're 100% switching to online learning, we're going to keep tuition the same. And this is just again, as Mencius Smolbug and Michael Malice referred to, the Cathedral being the government, the corporate press, and the universities. The universities can't forever maintain tuition at these prices. It has to, one way or another, go back down to a much more reasonable state. And this is before you have this artificial inflation with quantitative easing in the form of student loans. And then students who take these loans think that, okay, I'm going to go $20,000 into debt, but in the hopes that the opportunity in the future will outweigh this investment. And I just don't see this being a viable option. Maybe that's to my own ignorance. Down the road. So what I'm saying is that the bubble is becoming expedited in its burst due to the pandemic, where once you have this alteration of students not being permitted to utilize services on campuses, then students are going to question why this education is worth so much money. And it's not worth that much money. It's only worth that much money because students think that it's the best investment for their time and mental capacity. But it's not. It's not true. And it's just really interesting to think about this because unfortunately some students who are still trying to obtain their degree will try to finish this college experience and get their degree, but it's just a piece of paper. And if we're going off the signaling theory, which shows employers after you graduate college that you're capable of doing assignments in a timely manner and getting them done on time and graduating on time, then it doesn't matter what you learn at the university. As long as you're capable of doing these assignments, then that's all your employers are looking for. And I mean, it's different if you're learning an actual trade, like becoming a surgeon or a medical doctor. But then I think you'll just have a substitution of the colleges and universities for students who are people who are actually interested in receiving an education within a specific field or trade for their career instead of a field of study, which produces this cycle of academia. And I don't think that the coronavirus pandemic of pushing people to switch to this online learning helps the universities at all. Some of these universities might not even come back into business if some of these small liberal arts colleges, and with these liberal arts colleges losing money in students who are going to spend their tuition fees at this college if they just hold out for a year or decide to save the money and just wait to see what happens, then, man, a lot of these colleges are going to lose money. And I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but the universities are going to suffer in one way or another, whether it's the loss of money, the loss of students, or the loss of reputation as top quality academic institutions. Then this is where the bubble either deflates or bursts. And yeah, I mean, we can look at, comparing it to the housing market. So the other really interesting thing is if we go in this direction with a democratic socialist presidency who wants to make college free. Now, what will happen then if you make college free is, one, the quality of the education is going to drastically decrease. This is one because, I mean, it's going to become like public education in high schools. If public education was as good as what it's supposed to be, then you wouldn't need a college degree. But the fact that the matter is that so many people think you do need a college degree to get ahead in the world means that the public education in the high school sector wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough to prepare students for the real world. And when we make college free in this country, if we do, then we're going to have more students of a lower academic quality who are less capable of producing whether it's material that is adequate for the universities and colleges to accept, in which case the colleges will have to lower their standards of what's acceptable. And if they do this by, let's just say, abolishing the grading system, then the degree itself is going to become worthless, because everyone who graduates from that specific university is going to have a degree that signals to the employers, yeah, you graduated, but it wasn't that difficult and not that rigorous, and this really doesn't mean much to me. So I'm gonna have to see something that's more significant in verifying your capabilities, not as a student but as a potential employee to my company. And I don't know if colleges become partially free to some people and not to others, I think this might increase the cost to the people who are paying, in which case a lot less people are going to want to attend these colleges. And so then you just have this massive influx of students who aren't paying for the colleges, and a decrease in the amount of students who are willing to pay, who are going to decide not to go to these colleges. And I love the point that Dave Smith brings up about making college free. He says that, you're just asking the people who don't go to college to subsidize the ones who do. It's so messed up. And he's right. Like, if we make college free, this money, again, the government doesn't have money. People have money. People produce money. The government has money either from the tax revenue that they created or the money that they printed from the Federal Reserve. And so when they subsidize the colleges, or people via tax revenue subsidize the students who go, then it's it's just such a it's going to become such a backwards part of the United States, where the universities don't run off academic quality. They're going to run off degree production and how many students can we graduate, because then that's directly correlated to the money we're going to receive. And the degree is going to become worthless. And either some people are going to go into higher degrees of education to compensate, which, that's another couple years out of, people's early 20s, where they're in an optimal time to be part of the labor force, or they're going to just not go to college at all because it will be a waste of time, in which case, well, then we'll just have to go to like completely private institutions to receive an education of what was once top quality, of academic quality. And it's a philosophical joke to see what the universities have become in the way that they teach Marxism in all of the different departments. Myself, I'm learning Spanish, and they're teaching about communism, comparing private and public property, and I'm learning the history of Che Guevara. And I was told with a wink wink that we're really here to indoctrinate students. So I just don't see the universities and colleges becoming on the road we're going right now in this country towards any higher level of academic quality. We're regressing. The universities are becoming just completely not necessary in people's lives. And I can't say that's necessarily a bad thing. And just look out in the next couple years if either we see a decrease in the cost of colleges drastically, or a substitution away from the notion of going to college and universities altogether. Because there's something, being first generation, that's really proud for families to see. And it is ingrained with the American dream and society. And it's almost verifiable proof that, if my family generation didn't go to college, then if my kids do, then we're obviously progressing into a better level of life, of quality of life, that in our specific family blood line and family tree. But it's not necessarily true. I don't know. Students are seriously becoming less and less intellectually rigorous than I think what they were of the past generations. At the same time, you have an increase in the cost of college tuition. And this won't last. It's going to burst. Whether it's in the form of prices dropping or the amount of students who attend colleges and universities. We will find out. Thank you.